Thank you very much, Mr. Vitale. Thanks to all of the witnesses. We'll now have some rounds of questioning. I will start, and let me start with you, Ms. Miguel. So it's September 27th, 2024, Hurricane Helen hits Georgia, hits your home, causing very significant damage. I think we've got a picture of some of the damage here. Let's have a look. Does this look pretty familiar to you?
It does.
It looks pretty severe. I mean, that's a massive tree right there in the front part of your home, and you're an Allstate policyholder, is that correct?
Correct.
And Allstate sends out an adjuster, you said pretty quickly just a moment ago, is that
About
correct?
3 weeks after.
Oh, well, that's not very quick. Okay, 3 weeks after. All right, and that you were told at the time in this first inspection verbally that the adjuster agreed with you this was very severe damage. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
I think we maybe have a second picture. Let's look at another view of this just to give a real impression. Here's a breezeway that looks to be nearly completely destroyed. You can see some of that roof damage, quite extensive, that you were talking about in your testimony. All of this looks familiar to you, I'm sure.
Yes.
Now,
Ladies and gentlemen, patriots across this great nation, I'm fired up today, and you're about to be too. What I'm about to share with you is a shocking example of corporate greed, government negligence, and the average American getting steamrolled under the weight of corrupt systems that we're told to trust. The video we're talking about today is titled Witness, makes shocking claim to Hawley about what Allstate told him to do after assessing damage. Now, I know a lot of you have Allstate or maybe State Farm, Progressive, you name it, but after watching this, you're going to think twice. Meet Ms. Miguel. She's a homeowner in Georgia, just your average, hard-working American. September 27th, 2024. Hurricane Helen tears through her home. And what does Allstate do? They take 3 weeks to send someone to look at the damage. That's not quick. That's a slap in the face to someone paying for protection. And get this, when they finally show up, the adjuster agrees it's extreme damage. We're talking about a tree through her house and a breezeway basically destroyed.
Yes.
Now, after this first adjuster agrees with you that, yes, there's very significant damage, what did Allstate, when they finally came back with an actual assessment, a real number, what was that number again?
$46,000.
$46,000. So you went to considerable expense on your own. You hired your own independent adjuster to come back out and do all of this over again. And that person, looking at all of this evidence, that person found that the damage was in the neighborhood of what?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how your independent adjuster, how much did that person estimate the damage was?
$497,000.
$497,000. Allstate offered you 40, basically.
Correct.
And you're still waiting for this process to be resolved all this time later. Is that right?
That's right.
Let me just ask you now, Mr. Schroeder, because you were that first adjuster who worked for Allstate who came out to look at this home. You were a field adjuster deployed for Allstate through pilot catastrophe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you were the first one to inspect Ms. Miguel's home after the hurricane. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you went in person, I think. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you spent several hours, Ms. Miguel said in her testimony a moment ago, you spent several hours doing a very thorough inspection. Is that your memory also?
Yeah, that's correct.
And how serious would you say the damage was in your own, just your personal recollection?
Extremely, probably the most serious that I saw on this deployment.
Wow, the most serious that you saw on the deployment, which makes sense given these photos. So you start, if I understand correctly, you start to prepare an estimate for a full replacement of this breezeway right here. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's correct.
But then you were instructed, you were told by the higher ups, no, we're not going to do a full replacement of the breezeway. So only do an assessment for a partial replacement of the breezeway. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
So then you start working on that, and you're working to get as big of a damage claim as you can for Ms. Miguel in line with the facts after you've already been told, no, we're not going to do the full thing. And then before you can even complete your work, you're taken off the case. Is that right?
Yes.
Why do you think that happened?
I was told it was due to time I was taking too long, but I don't believe that is the case. I think that Allstate saw from this and my recently prior estimates of being very thorough and complete and going back and forth with reviewers on coverage that it was going to be a higher estimate, and it would be more cost effective to reassign it to an adjuster that would listen better.
Yeah, an adjuster who would lowball the policyholder, really. I mean, that's what we're talking about. You're removed from the case. They took 3 weeks to send you out to begin with, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're removed once it looks like you're actually going to do some justice for Ms. Miguel. Let me just ask you more broadly, Mr. Schroeder, have you ever been told to change estimates to reduce payouts?
Yeah, frequently.
And when you've pushed back on this, if you've ever said no, what happens then?
If I say no, then the claims typically get reassigned due to, they say, either lack of compliance or other reasons, like I'm taking too long.
In your experience, was this kind of thing a one-off thing, or was this a pattern?
This was definitely a pattern.
Is it fair to say then that Allstate's priority in your experience was not getting the best possible award for their clients, it was in protecting their bottom line?
Certainly in protecting their bottom line, yeah.
Mr. Milliken, let me just come to you, because you were then yet another adjuster in this same case sent out to look at Ms. Miguel's property. You worked as a field adjuster for Allstate through pilot catastrophe for about 8 years. Do I have that right?
At least 8 years, yes.
Yeah. In that time, you have personally inspected hundreds of properties damaged after storms and disasters. Is that fair to say?
Thousands.
Thousands. And you're trained to determine the extent and cause of the damage and how much it costs to repair it. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me just ask you about Ms. Miguel's claim. You were assigned to re-inspect her home, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you testified earlier that you went about that diligently. You could see that there was very extensive damage. That was your initial impression. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And you reviewed all of the reports. There was an engineer's report by this time. There was the public adjuster's report. You reviewed all of those things diligently. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
When you submitted your report to Allstate recommending several $100,000 worth of payments to Ms. Miguel and her husband, what happened then?
My estimate was rejected, and I was advised to alter it to a lower figure.
So you were told to alter the estimate and to alter your findings as well?
I was told to alter my estimate. I don't know that the findings was told to be altered.
Were the alterations that you were told to make, were those consistent with your own review of the property and your own assessment of the damage?
No, no, sir.
Did you write that up in a detailed estimate, what you were told to do?
I did, yes, sir.
And Allstate then, they send that estimate ultimately to the property owner, is that correct?
I'm obligated to send the estimate to the policyholder.
And is there any record anywhere the policyholder would ever know that your initial findings, your recommendations were rejected and somebody told you to come in and alter them?
No, sir.
Let me just ask you more broadly. Have you ever been told in other cases with Allstate to alter or delete your findings?
Absolutely.
In fact, you testified just a second ago, I think, that you were frequently asked to alter factual findings, delete material, and sometimes include items that were false. Did I hear you correctly when you said that?
Yes, sir.
In the overwhelming majority of cases where you were asked to do something like this, did that cause the estimate to the policyholder to go up or to go down?
To go down.
What is your assessment of what Allstate's ultimate goal here is? Is it to pay out the policy according to the terms of the policy to the best extent they can, or is it to protect their bottom line and to use you and your report as necessary to meet that end, to make sure they make as much money as possible?
100% to use me to enable them to make as much money as possible.
And you would say that this is a pattern. This isn't just something that happened one time like in Ms. Miguel's case. You've been doing this for a long time, and you've observed this to be a pattern with Allstate and in the industry.
I have, yes, sir.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Kim.
Allstate comes back with an estimate. $46,000. That's right. $46,000 for nearly $500,000 in damage. Now, Ms. Miguel, God bless her, doesn't sit back like a victim. She hires her own adjuster. You know what he estimates the damage to be? $497,000. That's almost $500,000. Folks, 10 times what Allstate offered. And remember, she's been paying premiums for this coverage. But that doesn't matter when these mega insurance corporations are more interested in protecting their bottom line than keeping their promises. Let's talk about Mr. Schroeder, the first adjuster, a guy who actually wanted to do the right thing. He says it plain and simple. The damage was the worst he saw in his deployment. He starts writing up a full replacement estimate, doing his job, and what happens? Allstate tells him, nope, cut it down, make it partial, keep it low, and when he doesn't comply fast enough, they pull him off the case. You hear that? This isn't just a misunderstanding. This is deliberate manipulation. This is a pattern. Then comes Mr. Milliken, another veteran adjuster. 8 years on the job. Thousands of homes inspected. Same story. He goes to Ms. Miguel's house, sees the obvious damage, does a real assessment, comes back with a big number, and guess what? They reject it, tell him to change it, alter the estimate. And no, the homeowner isn't told that their real number was ever erased. And this is the part that gets me the most. They're being told to delete, alter, falsify reports, and it's not a one-off. It's common. It's policy. It's the standard. Now let me speak plainly. This is everything that's wrong with the modern corporate machine. These billion-dollar insurance firms have no problem taking your money every month. But when it's time to pay out when disaster strikes, you're suddenly the enemy. They treat you like a liar. They lowball you. They silence the honest adjusters. And they do it because they think you won't fight back. And where's the government in all of this? Senator Josh Hawley is the only one in that room asking the hard questions. God bless him. But where's the rest of D.C.? Where's FEMA? Where's the Department of Insurance? You see, when elite class, when big tech, big pharma, or in this case, big insurance want to cut corners, our so-called leaders look the other way because they're too busy regulating you and me. They're too busy making sure we can't speak out on social media or defending billion-dollar companies with lobbyist cash while average Americans lose everything. This is why the American people are angry. This is why folks don't trust the system anymore. And this is why we as patriots must fight back. If you're listening to this and you've ever been told we're in good hands, let me ask you this. Whose hands? Because it sure as hell isn't yours. Patriots, we have to demand accountability. We've got to stand up against this kind of behavior because if they can do it to Ms. Miguel, they can do it to any of us. Start by sharing this video. Let your neighbors, your friends, your family know what's going on. Call your state reps. Call your insurance commissioner. Raise your voice. Because silence is what they count on. I'm Conservative Chronicle, and this has been another dose of the truth they don't want you to hear. Until next time, stay strong, stay free, and God bless America.